What's happening, guys? This is Nick from S2 Strategic Defense. Hope all is well. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys in its full entirety an interview that I conducted live on our Facebook page with Active Self-Protection's John Correia. Now, if you guys don't follow me on Facebook, next time you're over there, do a quick search for S2 Strategic Defense, and you can join our community over there. Always great things happening. I'd love to have you as a part of that. And if you guys don't know who John is, again, same thing. Just do a quick search for Active Self-Protection. He'll pop right up. Now, John is the gentleman who does the analysis and review of actual footage from violent encounters from around the globe. He breaks this down, gives us analysis, gives us lessons that we can all use to improve our personal safety skills. John is an amazing resource in the self-defense and in the firearms industry. This video is about 1 hour and 20 minutes long. Now, I know that seems like a long time for a YouTube video. I'd highly recommend that you guys save it and go through it in segments if you have to, but make your way all the way through it. If you're interested in personal safety, self-defense, concealed carry, then there's a lot of lessons to be learned in this video alone. Now, we talk a lot about the dynamics of violent encounters. We talk about guns. We talk about gear selection. There's just lessons all across the board over there. So you guys just got to watch it to get that for yourselves. All right, guys, enjoy the video. And by all means, if you guys like this, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notifications bell, and get in the comments section and let me know what you guys thought of that interview. Until then, I got to get back to work. I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, and we are live with S2 Conversations. Here we are today with a friend of mine, John P. Correia from Active Self-Protection. You know, he's done a lot of things. If you guys don't know who John is, I'll let him get into his background in just a minute, but I'm sure you've caught some of his videos online, on YouTube, on social media. He's the bearded guy that goes through all of those violent encounters and starts to give us lessons and analysis of what's going on and how we can operate better. Hopefully those are lessons that we can all learn from and be a part of. I think it's a service to anybody who's interested in self-defense to go through those diligently and learn from that, because I'd rather learn interactively than learn in real life. And so, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today, my man. I know that tonight is the highlight of your career.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely, man. No question about that, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. And so, while you and I had an online conversation for a while, and then you and I met face-to-face for the first time at the NRA conference in Dallas last year. And so we just kind of continued on from that. Yeah, it was, it's, what can I say, man? Time flies, right?
No kidding.
Yeah. Anyways, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today and spending a little bit of time to answer some questions. Hopefully some people will jump on as well. I know some folks are teaching class, but I got a pile of questions that they sent over to me. We'll try and get to a few of those tonight and hear a little bit from you. In the meantime, let's get started. For the three people who are in this industry and don't know who John is, give us a little bit of background. You know, how'd you get started? You know, what brought you to this industry? Tell us who John is.
Yeah, I mean, so I started with firearms as a kid a little bit. There was, my dad had a hunting shotgun in the house. My grandpa had guns, though. I look at this later. He's dead now. He can't get in any trouble. But my grandpa, when I was a young teen, was a prohibited possessor from a conviction that he had when I was a kid, and that didn't matter. We had guns all over the place. We shot some there. But I wasn't really into firearms at all. I joined the military in 95, got married in 95 as well. It's really hard if you're a member of the U.S. military to own firearms, personally own firearms. It's easier now than it was when I was in. So I don't really own a whole lot of firearms. People ask if I learned magic kung fu skills or mad gun skills in the military. The answer to that is no. I made hot water the hard way in Uncle Sam's Canoe Club for 8 years, which means I operated nuclear reactors. I was on the USS John C. Stennis, for anybody who is geeky enough to want that information. And then I got out of the Navy in 2002, and my wife and I moved to Phoenix for me to go to grad school. It's where I live now. And I really started getting into self-defense. The kind of the story there is in 2006, I was going to graduate school, and I was running a video game store, of all things, working in retail. And the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 came out, and managers of those stores were literally getting mugged and hurt and even killed in Phoenix for Xboxes. And I was like, nah,
Is that
man,
right?
that's not, yeah, no kidding. They were really, literally, there were stories in the news, and I was like, nah, man, that's not happening. And Arizona at the time, we're constitutional carry now. We were shall issue. And so I was like, look, man, I went and got a permit, bought a handgun, put it on my hip. It was a magic talisman that warded away danger. And then about the same time, my son, who was a real little guy, now he's an adult, he's in the Navy, he's married now, he's a grown man. But he was a little guy, and we were homeschooling, and his extracurricular activity was karate at the local community center. And he's like, Papa, why don't you come take karate with me? And I was like, I don't think so, buddy. I'm a little busy going to grad school, working full time, doing my thing. And he's like, well, what about afterwards? Okay, bud, I'll do that, And so that was like a year later, literally at my graduation. He comes up, gives me a big hug. Papa, I'm so proud of you. Oh, congratulations on your master's degree. Are you coming to class on Tuesday? And I was like, well, I guess I am, huh? So that was in May of 2006. I thought I would do it for 6 months just so that he and I could have something in common. Well, here we are almost 13 years later, and I'll be testing for my second degree, black belt, in April. So I've been doing that for 13 years, almost 13 years now, and got into firearms. At some point, I was like, man, if I'm going to carry this gun on my hip, at some point it was a lucky rabbit's foot. And so I realized, like, look, I have it, but can I really use it? And that was really because of my martial arts training that I was like, look, if I'm going to learn how to use this stuff, I better learn how to actually use it. So I started training. That gets expensive in a hurry. And so I've always had an entrepreneurial streak, and I'm a teacher at my core. So I pastored a church for 15 years. Taught undergraduates and graduate students for 9 and 5 years respectively. And so then I was like, look, why don't I just start teaching others, and then I have a business out of it, and then I can write stuff off, because I have to be a good student if I'm going to be a teacher. So started teaching handgun classes in 2011, and that's where active self-protection really came from. Started the Facebook page in 2013. And then the YouTube channel in 2016, and in April of 2016, we really got YouTube going. And the purpose there is that in my martial arts training, as well as my firearms training, I wanted my training to be evidence-based. I wanted to know, what do I really need to be able to do? And in particular, I was looking at, there was a couple of videos that I found online of real-life knife attacks that just weren't anything like that I was kind of seeing on the mats. And so then I took those to my teacher, and I was like, hey, what are we going to do with this? And he was like, man, we need to really work on that. Just an incredibly humble, good man. And so that's what started that. And then the YouTube channel has just kind of went bazonkers and exploded. We're at about a little over 1.3 million subscribers on the main YouTube channel now.
Good God, man.
Right. Started the second channel in September of 2017, and that channel is doing really well. We call it Asp Extra, and that's really where I teach not the principles of deadly force encounters, but the principles of self-defense, firearms, empty-handed skills, legal principles, mindset, some equipment reviews and stuff like that too. So I transitioned to doing this full-time. It was a side gig, a side hustle for a long time. I went full-time with it in July of 2017. I went solo with it February of 2018. So now this month actually is 1 year now of only doing active self-protection. It's the first time in as long as I can remember that I have not had more than one job.
Well, congratulations on all the success, man. I mean, I know I've been watching your videos basically since the YouTube stuff first started off, so a few years ago. And, and you and I did not know each other at the time. I think we might have had some mutual friends in the industry. But really, I mean, you were kind of still up and coming and doing your thing. And I cannot tell you, one, how proud I am to see how far you've gone from literally from ground zero all the way up to where you're at right now. And number two, it's just impressive to me how much work you put in making these things happen and putting content out and, still going off and teaching classes. And trust me, man, like, I'm in the industry, I'm traveling the country teaching all the time anyways. And then, so a lot of times I find that I don't have enough time for my own personal training, but you're always posting about, hey, I'm taking this class over at the 6 Hour Academy, or I'm taking this class at Force Science Institute, or, and so you're a constant student despite whatever fame and, power and money that you have now. But like I could use
more money. More money would be great.
more money is more money. More money is always I got more problems than money, so that,
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I do love to train. I'm a training junkie. Really, I really started in earnest. I mean, I trained quite a bit before that too. I mean, obviously, martial arts. I've trained more with my hands than I have with firearms. I think I've got about 2,000 hours on the mat under instruction at this point. But really, in 2016, I really said, you know what, gosh darn it, I was an instructor, but like most instructors, I was an NRA certified instructor. I'd taken some training, but not as much as I should have. I probably had, 150 hours of firearms instruction at that point. And then in 2016, I said, nah, I'm going to get good at this. And as a matter of fact, I wrote them down. I can tell you, I won't give you all the stuff, but I just did this for a friend. In 2016, I did about 75 hours of firearms classes. 2017, I did 146 hours. 2018, I did 270 hours. Right now on the calendar for 2019, I have 330 hours. And really what happened...
You're ramping up every year.
Yeah, well, at some point, I'm going to have to chill out a little bit. But
yeah, ramp back down.
my wife says to me, when I quit my job in February, I was like, dear, this is my full-time job now. This is my only job, and so I want to train like it's my job. And she said, look, a couple things. Number one, you do not get to borrow money to train. Number two, all your bills get paid, and your business credit card has to stay at zero. Family gets paid, and if you can do all that and take classes, that's great. And so I was like, okay, remember you said that. And
good guiding principles, right? So you don't end up in debt, because as you and I both know, this is, it kind of becomes a fix, man. Like we get addicted, or you press that trigger, you smell that gunpowder, and it's like, dude, this is what I want to do all day, every day.
Yeah, and I'm on a quest to learn. I'm a teacher at my core, and you got to say, student always, teacher sometimes.
Right.
And I've really worked hard on my handgun skills this last year, especially. I mean, just to really be excellent. I look at it like a samurai in days past would have to spend a lot of time working with their hands, but would learn their blade, and that was what they had to master. And to me, it's not a blade, it's a handgun. So that's what I carry every day. So I'm seeking to master the handgun. I'm not there yet by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm working at it.
So is the carbine next for you then? Are you going to spend more time behind a longer gun?
Yeah, I do some. I'm getting this year. So I did some carbine work late last year with John Lovell. Last year was with Steve Fisher. Again, this year with Steve Fisher. I'm taking Tom Given's shotgun instructor this year.
Oh, nice.
And also, I've been doing some shotgun work with Matt Hott, Rob Hott's son, and I've got some other shotgun work that I'm going to be doing this year under instruction as well. So some of that, because I think that's important for us to know. But really, my focus is still handgun. I guess let me say this. If by some crazy way that I get to the place where I could win a fast coin and a turbo pen without any worries, then I go, okay, now my handgun skills are really high, solid enough that I can spend more time doing the other stuff.
So, you mentioned John Lovell, obviously Warrior Poet Society. You're good friends with him. I'm an acquaintance with him. I remember him putting a video out. It's interesting that you use that samurai analogy, because that's one of the ones that I use. But I remember a video that he had put out on YouTube probably about maybe a year and a half ago. And he said that his carbine is literally the modern day samurai sword. And by default, the pistol would be the short dagger. And so, it's a craft, it's an art, it's something that you have to consistently hone in on with the right intent as well. It's not just being, all the different manipulations, but it's also understanding the applications of what you're doing. And I think you probably follow that same mindset as well. Am I wrong?
Oh, 100%. I think that's the way to do it. And that's why, first of all, I try to lead by example. And when I tell people that, I say, look, you got to get to class because you don't know what you don't know. So the samurai, if I was going to go buy a gas station katana and wave it around and watch a couple YouTube videos and say, oh, okay, I know what I need to do now, and then I can and do all this crazy stuff. Well, that doesn't make me proficient. But sitting under a master and learning their way, not just their what, but their why, and their, not just their logos, but their ethos and their pathos as well. And then really getting an understanding, because, martial arts, right? So The art that I study is a derivative of American Kempo, and so I have great respect for Bruce Lee. And I love what,
Thank you.
I love what Bruce said. And there's a lot of overlap there with all that. And what Bruce said, he said when he first started, a kick was just a kick, and then he realized after a while that a kick was far more than a kick. And then after thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of study, he realized that a kick is just a kick. And so the funny part to me is that because, once you get in a little bit, and I said that's kind of that Dunning-Kruger curve. And, when you get in there, you're like, yeah, it's fine. Everything's easy. Then you slide down the other side of Mount Stupid and you go, whoa, there's a lot here. I have so much to learn. And then as you continue on and learn, then it's not that those nuances go away, but you've internalized them so much, they're in an unconscious competence. And so then you're like, yeah. But at the end of things, you just go back and do this stuff and it's okay. So, I think whatever it is that you're doing that, when you get to the place of mastery, and mastery is the process of renewal, that's the big thing, is that mastery is the process of going back again and again and again. So before class here for 15 minutes, man, I'm just out doing my dry fire, pulling the draw, driving it out, seeing what we can do, not because I've mastered it yet, but because mastery is a process of renewal. That's a phrase that I got from my teacher's teacher, Skip Hancock.
That's 100% correct, man. And it's really interesting. So, similar to you, before getting into the firearm side, I come from a heavy martial arts and edge weapons background, right? Jeet Kune Do, Kali, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so, it's really interesting because, you don't realize how quickly those skills diminish if you're not putting them to refinement all the time. So it's kind of like, man, it's got to get in the grinding stone. We have to sharpen this up. We have to sharpen this up. We have to sharpen this up regardless. And granted, there's always going to be some times we get distracted. We got families, we have businesses to run. We have whatever to do. But, when you get back on the mat after taking 2 months off, you quickly realize that how fast those skills left you and how long it takes for you to get them back. And so I think it's really important that you're pointing this out, that it is a constant process of renewal. I like that. I might steal that. So if you see a T-shirt with that, don't sue me.
Yeah, and the thing is it doesn't take much to maintain. The higher you get, though, of course, this well, the more effort you got to put in to make significant progress. And that tells you something. There's a law of diminishing returns. So I do like Greg Ellifort's approach. He says, look, I'd rather have a brown belt in 5 things than a black belt in 1. And I think that's not inappropriate, says the guy who has a black belt in 1 thing. But at the same time, getting to a high level is important. So for me, for instance, my shooting coach is Scott Jedlinski from the Modern Samurai Project. And I love Scott. Scott's a heck of a coach, man. I think he is probably the best teacher in America today of handguns at diagnosing and fixing problems. That's why I'm like, would you be my coach? It's like asking a prom date. Would you coach me? But
I'll put out.
And with Jedi, just working on learning that process of renewal every day, and then getting excellent at it, and not accepting the current standard. That's what I just took a class with Gabe White, pistol shooting solutions class. And if you watch Gabe White, this dude legit from concealment. He's carrying a bone stock, well, not bone stock, carrying a Gen 5 Glock 17 with aftermarket sights on it, and he is pulling draws to first shot from concealment on the clock in front of class, 7 yards, A zone, 0.7. Not even joking.
Blazing fast.
Dude's running build drills. I watched him run a build drill 4 times on the clock as a demo for students in under 1.7 seconds. All A zone. It's ridiculous, okay? And you go, Gabe, how did you get there? Well, then you talk to Gabe about his routine, and he had to back off for a while because he got tendonitis in his elbows so bad he couldn't hardly pick up a cup of coffee.
Okay.
And you go, really? Really, Gabe? And he goes, yeah, I had to quit for a couple months because of tendonitis. I go, from what? He goes, from dry fire. Oh, that was TACCon last year. And I was like, wow, okay. Well, if you want to get that good, what it takes.
Hey man, we have to learn from we also have to learn from these guys' mistakes. The guys who are like, hey, I'm blowing my elbow off because I'm drawing, from the holster so much. I kind of need my elbow. You know what I mean? And so,
right.
Never to say that it's I don't like that it's good enough attitude. It's never good enough, but it tells you for the guys who are putting in it tells you about the time that people are putting in to get the results that they're getting. You want to be like, one of my JKD and Kali instructors used to say, look, you want to have Bruce Lee results, put in Bruce Lee time.
Right.
And so it's really interesting as far as that stuff goes. For a bunch of people have joined in on us, we have a good dozen or so guys. If you guys have any questions for John as we move along, I am keeping an eye on my laptop here, so make sure that you guys post your questions. I'll see if I can't get to them and get some answers out of John. If not, we'll just choke them out or bring them back on the next one. And so, I want to make this as interactive for everybody as possible. Shifting gears, brother. Look, you and I were talking a few days ago, scheduling this thing up, and I was really impressed because you said you've watched 18,000 videos. 18,000 videos.
Yep.
Holy cow, man. So first and foremost, how do you even find, are people sending these to you? Are you selecting them somehow? Or what, how is that big pool of videos making it over to your desktop?
Yeah, at this point, it's pretty incredible. So we mostly get them from a couple sources. People send them to our Facebook page. My Facebook page private message box is filled. I mean, we get 100 messages a day on Facebook. I probably get another 25 or 30 emails a day. My Facebook friends list is filled with people who are constantly private messaging me. Have you seen this one, John? Have you seen this one, John? Have you seen this one, John? Dude, have you seen this one? You got to see this one. So between that, we wade through about 100 to 150 emails and messages every single day. Now, I don't do all of that anymore. Thank you, Jesus. Mostly, the Facebook inbox is handled by Stephanie Widener, my executive officer, my XO. And she's amazing at that. Emails that come in, I send over to my videographer and video editor, John Masek, and he does that for me. And then they collate all those together, and we keep them, we just keep a list. So I use a tab manager, and I can tell you right now, my tab manager has 421 tabs in it. Now I'm going to say this, it has 421 tabs in it. That is not nearly half of it, because I haven't gotten anything from Stephanie and John in months. So we probably have almost 2 years worth of content waiting to do. And it comes from all over the world, almost all of it. I'd say 90% of it, maybe 95 is publicly available. So people send me YouTube links, live leak, dark web, stuffish. I try to stay away from that, but there are some wicked websites out there that, I wouldn't say online because there's nasty stuff on them too. Right. And an increasing number, though, of people sending me their defensive encounter. Like, hey, John, here was surveillance video from the liquor store I was in, or from the lobby of the apartment complex that I got attacked in. And what do you think I could do better?
Here's some footage from the liquor store that I robbed last week. Look at how I got away with this.
Yeah. So we're starting to set up people that we're getting to also interview and say, hey, tell me about your event. Tell me what happened. And, so we're getting direct stuff from people, which is really cool. I'm so grateful because we get messages every week as well from people who say, hey, John, you saved my life. And of course I go, I didn't save your life. You saved your life. Yeah. Tell me what happened. Well, this was going down. Here's how it went. And I heard your voice in my ears saying this. And I did. And that's why I'm still here. And I'm like, wow, well, you did the right thing, not me. I didn't save your life, but I'm really glad that I was able to help. So, but yeah, it's rare anymore. When I very first started the channel, the YouTube channel, I had to go and look. So my Google flu is pretty strong, but now the tidal wave that comes in is so much that I'm looking at videos that maybe a year ago or 18 months ago I would have said, okay, put that in the queue, we'll do that one, and I'm like, gosh, I got too much else to do. We're just going to pass that one by. So it's crazy how much there is.
Well, it's interesting to me because you're not a guy doing it, you're the guy doing it. You know what I mean? And,
right.
and so you were first in that space in the first place. I think some other people have done some stuff where they've reenacted that kind of stuff, but they don't do that analysis, that breakdown the same way you do it. And so they kind of have their own flavor to it. I mean, you're literally the guy that's doing these kinds of things, which is a kind of a good market position to be in for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I really created the market segment, and nobody else was really doing it, and I started just as a way to help people in their world. And actually, we didn't start on YouTube. We started doing the narrative videos on Facebook. So the really old ones are over on Facebook, on the Facebook page. And there's about 500 of them over there, and then about almost 1,100 now on the YouTube channel. Right. And so, and there, is there ever anybody else that's doing it? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. There's a couple guys, especially that do officer-involved incidents that were or are cops. And that's great because they can provide a perspective that I don't. I mean, I don't do cop stuff because I'm not a cop. I do badge cams and dash cams, but I specifically say, why did he do that? I don't know. I'm not a cop, but let's talk about the fight, not the approach or the whatever, the talk or whatever. That's right. I'm getting more and more of that, though, because now I hired my friend who we shall call Giggles O'Houlihan, who is a peace officer in Arizona. And Giggles is my law enforcement consultant. And I have a couple other good friends who are cops that when I start having cop questions and I'm like, why did he do that? Then they go, oh, okay, here's why. And here's the cop perspective on that. Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. Or, I don't know why he did that. That was stupid. That was completely against everything he's ever been taught. Oh, okay, well, that's cool. So, that's true. Yeah, there's really nobody else doing it. We're kind of alone in the market segment. And It's not like I'm playing whack-a-mole with people and saying nobody else can do it. And I honestly don't think that the uniqueness is just the fact that it's violence caught on video. Literally anybody can do it. And I've had somebody say, well, John, anybody can do what you do. And my answer to that is, well, then go ahead. By all means, knock yourself out. I think the uniqueness of active self-protection is kind of my perspective on things and my approach to self-defense, and a combination of martial arts and firearms skills and kind of my worldview. So if anybody else wants to do it, that's great. And I'm all about it. Start your channel. Let me know. I'll subscribe.
Well, the funny thing is that, so active self-protection is your business, and that's cool, but the brand is actually you. And so if you took your mug off of the camera and somebody else was doing it, your number's going to go straight down. Why? Because we've made a personal connection with you. You're our friend John, right? I mean, and so, the brand is built off of John. John, somebody else can go start the same thing and do the exact same stuff, say the same thing, but they're not going to get the same response as what you're getting, is because of that connection that you've made with your followers and your viewers, which I think is on a business side of things. I think that's probably one of the smartest things that anybody's done. And I know you didn't do that with that intention. It's just an end result of how often and consistent and constant you were with it.
Thank you. To me, there's a thing where they talk about being an influencer. That's a thing now, right? You're an internet influencer. Whatever that means, I always tell people, my goal is not to be an influencer. My goal is to be a trusted advisor. I want to be a trusted advisor. And in order to be a trusted advisor, you have to earn trust. That's right. I can't give anybody, I can't be there. I tell people all the time, I'm not going to be at your gunfight. I'm not going to be at your assault. You are. I can give you advice, but it's up to you to take it. Whether or not you take it is probably dependent on whether you trust me. So my goal is to be a trusted advisor, and to be a trusted advisor, you got to be trustworthy. And so, yeah, I mean, it's people watching me and saying, okay, wait a minute, should I trust this guy? Does this guy know what he's talking about? Does this make sense to me? And, that's what we try to do every day, is just keep earning trust.
So a couple guys that are watching our live session right now they both asked the same question, which is 5 years. What's your outlook for active self-protection or for yourself over the next 5 years?
Well, I say this all the time, and my 90s kids can relate to me. We're going to do the same thing today that we've done every day. Try to take over the world, okay? Anybody any Animaniacs fans out there, Pinky in the Brain, anyone? Hey, okay. But really what I'm doing in the next 5 is a couple things. We have some stuff I can't really talk about at this point. We're going to try to continue to do what we're doing and reaching larger audiences to do it. So that might include some other platforms other than YouTube, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see what ends up with that. Also, the end goal of a lot of the training that I'm doing, one thing that I don't see in the firearms world, and I honestly don't see it in the martial arts world sometimes too, is I don't see principles of adult learning that are well ingrained in some of this training. In other words, I've been to martial arts seminars where it's just, okay, let me show you some techniques, go do them, beat each other up a little bit, go home. Okay,
you haven't been to one of mine, John.
And we got to fix that. We got to fix that for sure. But I've been to a lot of handgun classes that I talk to instructors and I go, okay, so what are we doing? Well, how do you know your students learned anything? And they go, well, they passed the qual at the end. Well, I didn't ask if they could pass the qual at the end. You didn't know if they could pass it on the way in. Like, how do you know if you taught them something? Well, because I went through the curriculum and they listened. Yeah, but you don't know if they learned anything. They could have just wasted their time. So adult learning and those things are important to me. So at some point, probably not this year, but in the next couple, we're going to start training and certifying instructors, and not to teach my curriculum, but to be educators first and to be evidence-based in what they do. And so there's definitely, that's on the 5-year agenda as well. And I just want to, and I really, when I say breaking out of the firearms industry, one of my big things is to teach self-defense to all people. Okay, so I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment is for all people, not just Americans, by the way. That's all people around the world. The Constitution does not grant rights. It protects rights. And so to teach people who are not your typical gun folk and to invite people into the conversation to educate them on what real violence looks like and how we can do better as a nation, I think is there. I've had a couple people tell me they want me to run for office, and I say, don't you put that evil on my head, Ricky Bobby. I'm not really interested in running for public office because I don't hate myself that much.
I don't know. Maybe you and Trump, huh?
Well, you know, I guess we have definitely determined that celebrity can be a qualification for office. But I, you know, really it's to continue the business, to help more people, to really transition and help the industry to see how to be evidence-based and to be heartfelt and value-added. One of my big things is that there are folks, not a ton, but the firearms industry is filled with like 95% awesome people and 5% people that you wish would jump off a bridge.
Agreed.
And so I want to highlight the heartfelt value-added folks, the folks who are doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons, and help everybody, you know, to get better. I also want people to stop spending money on crap. Everybody wants to buy gadgets that won't help them, and I'm like, man, there's so much wasted money.
That's right.
Put that money in the bank, you know, and do smart things with it. So that's kind of the longer-term plan.
Well, what they should do is go do classes with you and with classes with me instead of buying a bunch of junk. I think that's a smarter thing to do. Training is training.
Training is good, man. Spend more money on training than you do on gear every year.
So over time, man, I'm still impressed by this 18,000 video type of thing. And by the way, years ago, I did a gig with the Department of Corrections, and I was watching VHS cassette surveillance video for prison yards, prison shankings in specific, right? And so I understand how much time goes into those things, and to think about them, because you don't just watch them once, over and over and over, and try and find the nuances and the details. I have to really ask you, over those 18,000 videos, are there some commonalities? Are you finding some general lessons that almost apply everywhere by the numbers?
Oh, absolutely. We actually have an entire seminar that I do. And we call it Lessons Learned. So I'm doing it this weekend, in fact, in Yuma, Arizona. We travel the country. We call it the Cover Your ASP Tour.
Okay.
And we go all over the place for that. And I also teach it at places like, let's see, I'm going to be teaching at the USCCA Expo this year. I'm going to be teaching at the NRA Carry Guard Expo this year. I'll be teaching that. And in a couple other places. So I'm teaching it at the Texas Concealed Pistol Association annual meeting. Anyways, and what we call that is we call it lessons learned from watching thousands and thousands and thousands of gunfights. And right now, I've got it at what I consider to be a manageable chunk. It takes me about 3.5 hours to work through. And right now it's 22 lessons, 22 commonalities. Now, I tell folks all the time, I could make it 50.
Give me one or two.
The number one thing, yes, the number one thing that I say all the time, lesson 0 is carry your gun because, as Clint Smith says, armed people kill unarmed people with monotonous regularity. And, if you're going to get in a gunfight, then you won't know it until the last minute because the bad guy won't send you an RSVP. So carry your gun because when I see people that don't have any tools on them, they're at a huge disadvantage. Second big one that we say all the time is to pay attention. That's what most people call situational awareness. I just recently kind of changed that verbiage in my mind, and I said, no, pay attention. Your mama told you pay attention. And awareness is just kind of this idea of what's going on in my world. And people look at that and it's kind of like a gun guy, thing, situational awareness. And we go, what does that mean? You're like, I know everything. I have complete understanding of my surroundings. Nah, man, really what I mean is pay attention. Put your phone in your pocket, see what's going on in your world. If you're going to step out into the street, make sure that there's no traffic going both ways, because that's what your mama taught you, right? And if somebody's paying attention to you that shouldn't, see why, do those things. And attention buys you time, and time buys you options. I would far rather see something coming a long way away and go, don't want to be in the middle of that, and get the heck out of there, than blithely walk into it and go, oh, gosh, I got to shoot somebody. And the people who kind of say, oh, I wish somebody would, they've never been in a real gunfight, because when you're in a real gunfight, your whole world changes and life gets really ugly. So pay attention to your world. That's a huge one. You hear this all the time on the channel. One of my other ones is understanding what the realities of transitional spaces are. And, so that's a phrase that, at the very least, Kelly McCann was using in the 80s and 90s in its architectural sense. An architectural term is a transitional spaces where you go from inside to outside, or from one type of facility to another. I use it with a kind of different definition of any place that allows attackers to attack with an element of surprise and to get away quickly. And so that's a place that they can transition in and transition out quickly. So that's why I call it a transitional space. And some of those overlap quite a bit. And if you understand what a transitional space is, and when you are in one or approaching one, you can do the things, mostly paying attention, that can say, okay, am I safe to do this? Is this good to do? And keep yourself out of problems. So those are kind of the first three that we walk through, that anybody who's watched the channel and seen more than about 10 videos goes, yeah.
Yeah. So transitional spaces in specific. So we all have different definitions, but they all kind of come down to the same thing. When I teach and I talk about transitional spaces in home defense, or, active shooter response, or any of that stuff, for me, a transitional space is that takes you from one body of one main area where there might be a larger body count to another place. So you're talking hallways, you're talking staircases, you're talking elevators and that kind of stuff. So it's getting you from point A to point B, and essentially you're kind of stuck in transition. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so transitional spaces kind of fits for me. So essentially the kind of thing, anything that you've learned over these 18,000 videos, which I have no idea how you're watching 18,000 videos and taking classes and running a family and teaching stuff, but you're a busy guy. Anything that caught you by surprise, like, man, I just wouldn't have thought about that unless I saw it 18,000 times.
Yeah, the one that gets me into trouble, and I get kind of from the tactical guys about, is that I don't carry a reload. As a CCW holder, I don't carry a reload for my gun. And people go, wait a minute, why don't you carry a reload? Well, I have watched all those gunfights, and I have never seen a CCW gunfight where a reload mattered. I've just never seen it. And because I've never seen it, I say, you know what? It's just not a priority. Now, if you're carrying a very low capacity firearm, maybe. I mean, you might need to, but the average gunfight is over in less than 7 seconds. 5 seconds is the kind of the 95th percentile. So how long do most people take to reload, not out of their gamer rig, but out of their pocket where the reload is? Well, it takes 2.5 to 3 seconds for them to get the gun back in the fight. The fight's over. Yeah. And so I'd rather carry a higher capacity firearm. So I make the space to carry a gun with 15+1, so that I have I have 5 servings in that gun. And by the time those 5 servings are gone, the fight's going to be over for me. That one is kind of a big one, and people do give me a little pushback on that. And I go, look, I'm not telling you not to carry a reload. If you want to carry a reload, carry 3. I don't care. But there's maybe other things. So I started carrying my medical kit instead of a reload, because I've used that sucker a couple times. And I do see good people injured all the time who need their medical equipment. And if it's in the car, it's too late. So that's one that's kind of gotten some interesting play in terms of something that it did kind of surprise me. I will say, you'll see on the channel next week, the very first time in history that I have ever seen a defensive firearm drawn, dropped, and then picked up and used. It's the very first time I have ever seen somebody get a gun out and into the fight, that gun hit the ground, them be able to pick it up and use it again. So in particular, I carried an HK VP9 for about 3.5 years. I'm carrying a P30 LEM right now. but carried that BP9, and then people, every once in a while, somebody says, "Oh, but the Military Arms Channel did a show, and he showed if you drop that sucker in the mud, you're in trouble. You know, that gun's not going to work." And I go, "Well, there's several other videos of people who've done it that it worked just fine." I don't particularly like the way he conducted that test. I don't think it's a valid test. And I say all the time, and I've also never seen anybody drop a gun in a mud puddle and then pick it up and continue to use it in a fight, in a real gunfight. So I'm not real worried about it.
Right.
First time I've ever seen somebody drop a gun.
So I carry my 19X, or I carry, I recently just picked up a P320 X carry.
Okay.
And so I do keep a second mag, but not because I feel like I'm going to run out of ammo. I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, I got 19 plus 1 in the pipe, you know, on my 19X. And so I carry a second mag because I've broken enough mags. I've had enough mag malfunctions, you know, with the follow breaks or the spring breaks or something like that. And so, like, in case I do need a second mag for something, I'm never going to say that, look, I'm going to spend all that brass and throw in another reload and, you know, be all kinds of awesome. I will just say that I've had plenty of magazines fail on me, even on range, and that would be the only reason. Or if I'm carrying light, where I'm carrying a smaller gun that has a very limited capacity, a 5-rounder, a 7-rounder, I'll put a second mag in for that just on the safe side, because my concern is not the one guy that I do have to engage, it's the guy that I don't see. You know what I mean? And so if there is a second guy or third guy, at the very least, I kind of believe in it the same way as like a seatbelt. I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. You know?
Yeah, and I don't think that's an invalid way to think about things. I almost never see in real defensive, in CCW gunfights, COB fights are totally different, right? But in CCW fights, I almost never see a CCW holder engage more than 2 bad guys before everybody finds something better to do with their day. So, you know, I go, look, I kind of consider 5 rounds to be a serving, a full serving. And I go, you know, so a gun with 15 plus 1 in it, I got 3 servings of bad guy and a warning. And, you know, 3 servings and a remainder. So, okay, you know, I'm okay with that. But, you know, you want to carry a reload, knock your socks off, man. Doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
Yeah, that's just a personal choice. I mean, again, like I said, for me, I don't believe it. I don't think I'm going to need that for the sake of a combative use. I think I might need it in case of a failure, if anything. You know what I mean? And so that's
of course,
my
you would in the same way that I would say, listen, I train with mags, and I got a big old bag full of training mags, and they're all marked as training mags. And then I have carry mags. My carry mags have been vetted and then are babied. I bummed myself out about 6 weeks ago because I worked something. I needed to unload my carry gun, and I popped that magazine out, and I have hard floors in my house because it's Arizona, and popped it out, dropped that magazine, and it hit the ground. And I went, well, guess what? I just got myself a new training mag, because once it hits the ground, it's done as a carry mag to me. I go and get one of my other vetted carry mags. I keep 3 of them that are available at all times. Put that one in the gun. Okay, I've vetted that mag.
The flip side to that is that even if you're using a carry mag and separating your range mags from your carry mags, they all work great until they don't. There's just no, I mean, there's no in between. And so that's my biggest fear when it comes to that kind of, and mind you, I'm in no delusion that you know, like, it's not a frequent thing. I'm not a police officer. You know what I mean? I'm not an operator where I need to be out, you know, and I'm on my gun all the time, or, you know, exposed to a lot of stuff. I live a pretty safe life. And, you know, I'd much rather land on my hand-to-hand skills or my track and field skills. But if I'm going to carry the firearm, 1, I want my skill set to be there. 2 is I want to make sure that my equipment is good to go, you know. And so, you know, I don't live in any dreamland that I'm going to get engaged into some, you know, crazy shootout and this thing's going to be all over Facebook next week or something like that, you know. And I think, you know, reality is reality. Let's be honest. Majority of us will never see a violent encounter where we have to press the trigger on someone.
Thank you, Jesus. I'm sure glad for that.
Exactly, man. You know, so just out of curiosity, just talking about engaging, not engaging, out of 18,000 videos, man, when is a good time? When is compliance the right thing to do?
So I tell folks all the time, I say it on the channel all the time, compliance is an option, but it's not a foolproof option, right? We have one coming on the channel this week where I've got 2 videos out of Houston that compliance works. Dude comes in, points a gun at him, give me the money. Okay, dude, here you go. Here's the money. Work fine. Yeah. That's great. and then one out of Brazil, and another one out of, where was the last one out of? I forget, but U.S., that it didn't work. It was out of Parkland. It was actually the father of two kids that were at Parkland when the attack happened. It was out of Parkland, Florida. And he got held up. They were completely compliant and got shot and killed anyway. So when is compliance the right option? Well, when you don't have any other choice, then you got to just comply. I always say, look, I want to have the skills and the equipment on me that I get to choose. And if you have the equipment, you have that, we could say attitude, skills, and plan to defend yourself, then you can do the calculus in the moment. Is the best choice for me right this second to comply, or is the best choice for me right now to fight? And that calculus is a very complicated thing that I can't make for you in the moment. What you see, what you perceive, what the other risks are, where is everything in space in that moment. I will say that, for instance, one of the things that I'm recently coming to really embrace, I took the Force Science Institute's Force Science Analyst certification earlier this year.
Yep.
And fantastic class, incredible class. They don't let just anybody into that class, so you got to either be active duty law enforcement or Bill Lewinsky and his team have to vet you. And they did, and somehow they still let me in. And and one of the interesting things that I really learned there is human performance factors. How long do things take? And for instance, one of those that I said was, if you can draw and get a first shot hit in under 1.15 seconds, then when the bad guy glances away, he doesn't have to look away like this. That's just a glance. If he glances away from you, you can get him before he can get you, even if he has the gun out. Now, of course, if you say 1.15, that's your worst day. You better be ready for a 15% degradation in skills because everything's on the line, which means you need to be able to hit a one flat on the square range. If you can get the gun out, drive it out, get a first shot A-zone hit in under a second on the square range, then on that worst day, 115, then your go signal can be a glance. He looks, what else is going on over there? If you can't do that, well, then you go, wait a minute, now I got to wait for a look, or I got to wait for a turn, or I got to wait for something else so that I have more time. So having that high skill set, it depends on who your skill set is, because what can Gabe White do? What can I do? What can an average CCW holder do? Those are different things. So based on that, then that's going to determine what your answer is.
I think one of your videos that does a great job of kind of talking about the whole timing issue and buying time, choosing the right time, and doing that calculus in your head was one that you posted recently. It was a gentleman, I think he was getting carjacked, or he was on the side. I think he was getting carjacked, but they had him on the sidewalk, and he started walking compliantly. And then he found a moment where they weren't paying attention to him, and he couldn't see. He drew he picked up a shirt. He had his gun out and into the fight right away. I want to say it was someplace in South America, if I remember correctly. You might be able to better remember which video it was, but I thought that was really interesting how he calculated and waited patiently. It wasn't like a threat, go to my gun. It was a threat, wait for my opportunity where I have the best chance of being able to counter ambush almost. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had people come back and tell me that that's that big phrase that we use on the channel all the time is wait your turn. If somebody's shooting, I mean, if he's pulling the trigger, guess what? You got to go, right? I mean, it's your turn. You got to do something. But if he's just threatening you with a gun, you got to say, I got to wait my turn here. I got to wait until it's my turn. If you're willing and you have the courage and you have the discipline to wait your turn, waiting for the glance, for the look, for the turn, for the he's not paying attention to me, it's my turn, then you can launch a counter ambush. And we've had several instances of people who watch the channel come back and said, I waited my turn, and because of it, I won.
That's true, man. And so, like, when I teach my firearms classes or almost anything self-defense related, I give a 3-question analysis that everybody has to do in a snapshot. And the 3 question is this: could I, should I, and do I have to? Yep. And I think that if you can qualify those real quickly in your head, then that's going to give you your answer whether if compliance is the right thing to do or engaging is the right thing to do. But it also tells you that, when you go to that could I, well, this is probably not the right time for me, or should I, this is probably not the right time for me, and kind of wait this thing out so you find that opportunity. It's all just a big play on time. And the more I watch your videos, honestly, the more I see that, like, it's just a manipulation of time. Who takes advantage of that moment the best?
100%, man. Really, time is the biggest essence in a defensive encounter. The whole thing's going to be over in 5 seconds, but that 5 seconds, boy, you have to absolutely dominate. And so, when it's time to go, you got to know, okay, wait a minute, is it my turn? Am I going to start the fight now? Once I do, is it the right time? Can I overwhelm? And that's what we talk about. Even SWAT cops talk about speed, surprise, and violence of action. When it's time to go and they set the go button, it's got to be now, and I'm coming at you, to use Bruce Lee's analogy, right, like a tidal wave. I'm like hitting you with a bucket of water. I'm hitting you with everything I have right now.
It's game on, man, because look, like one of my old adages is you can only beat violence with superior violence. So if somebody's willing to do something to me, I have to be able to willing to match and beat that out. And so the only way I'm going to gain control of this thing is to be prepared, willing, and able to overwhelm in return, kind of thing.
Totally agree.
It's really interesting, man. So, here's something that, I'm going to kind of change gears a little bit. Well, actually, before I change gears, if you were going to tell just a John Q. citizen, armed or not armed, hey, listen, I've watched a bunch of these videos. This is what I do for a living. I do this analysis. Here's one piece of advice that I really feel like you should really employ. Would you say it's the whole awareness aspect, like you talked about earlier, like pay attention? Would that be the big ticket winner for you?
Number one, pay attention. Number one is pay attention for everybody.
Yeah, that's 100%, and that's 100% correct. I think, so like in our industry, we use this term awareness kind of like it's such a general term. It's almost worthless saying it anymore. Through the martial arts side of things, I've always broken it down into 3 parts. I say, look, you have environmental awareness, you have situational awareness, then you have self-awareness. Know where you're at, know what's happening around you, and then know what's going on with you. And so paying attention is kind of like a good blanket statement over all 3 of those. It's pretty good, man. I might steal that too. So if you see a T-shirt that says "Pay attention," don't sue me, John.
Well, I just started thinking, because I agree with you that so much we use this phrase, situational awareness, and it's. But what does it mean? How do I do that? How do I situational awareness? And you go, well, that means you pay attention to your world. So then why not just say pay attention? My mama been saying pay attention to me since I was little. I know that.
That's right.
and you know, pay attention to me. Correct. What's going on in my soul? Do I have this peaceful, easy feeling? I can handle this. I'm okay. Do I know what's going on in my world? You know what I mean? And can I see what's going on? When I'm driving, I don't talk about driving situational awareness. What do I say? Pay attention to the road.
I'm curious to know about something. So I do a lot of force-on-force and munitions training, 1, as a provider, and 2, for myself, because I feel like that's like you can spar in jiu-jitsu, you could spar in boxing, you could spar in edge weapons. How do you spar with a gun? And so you have to find stuff like airsoft or force-on-force and that kind of stuff. I'm curious to know, if you take a bunch of the lessons that you've learned over time since you've been doing this and put that into a force-on-force scenario for yourself and see if it is the true test and what the end result, and I don't know, maybe you found something that you thought was the right thing, but force-on-force told you it was not. Anything like that?
So the weird thing for me is I don't totally agree with you that force-on-force is a good, is incredibly beneficial. So let me just start there. Force-on-force is incredibly beneficial. Period. End of subject. Okay? That said, force-on-force by its definition is an artificial environment, and we have to recognize the limitations of it. So for instance, when I'm going to spar, right? So I put my mouth guard in, I put my headgear on, I put my gloves on. Okay, we're going to spar. We know that we've got an artificial environment, right? So I know, for instance, the chances of me going full on sparring are very few. We're going to go at a 6 or an 8 or whatever, depending.
Right.
And in force-on-force, I go, oh, okay, John Q. Public, let me put the fist helmet on you and put all the gear on you and all that stuff and put a Glock, 17 on you, and then go, okay, you're going to go to the store and you're going to go to the liquor store and get a bottle of liquor and leave. You're not going in there going, I wonder what I'm going to go pick up, Junior. You're going, one of these guys is going to kill me.
Right.
And so you
I'm
tend
have
to
some
think,
interaction here.
yeah. And so, and the best ones don't. Craig Douglas in his experiential learning lab does a really good job of there being plenty of times where you go, okay, I'm just going to go buy a bottle of liquor, and okay, I do, and I walk the heck out of here. Some dude goes, hey, man, you got $1? No, man, I don't have $1. All right, fine, screw you. Yeah, you're right, screw me. And then you walk out and it's gone. I think there needs to be more of that, and I also think there needs to be the real key to me of force-on-force is properly training up for. Properly training.
The role player.
The role player to role play. Because the problem, of course, is usually the role player are your real meat-eating crime fighters. They are the folks who are like, oh, I'm going to freaking burn you down. Oh, I'm going to get you. Oh, they're incredible marksmen, and they have incredible emotional fitness, and they want to burn you down. Well, sometimes that's what you want. You're like, look, it's not true force on force. I really just want to humble somebody and burn them down. Okay, well, then burn them down. But instead, when your force players know their role and they play their role, then it becomes more accurate. I'll give you an example of this. We're at the Surefire Shoot House Bonanza, not last year, year before, and we're playing Tactical Fantasy Band Camp, okay? I'm in full battle rattle. I'm in plate carrier, helmet, freaking, rifle, all this stuff, working on a 4-man team. Actually working an 8-man team, but I'm on a 4-man team.
I've seen the video for it.
It was so fun, but okay, I'm in Tactical Fantasy Band Camp, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm the doorman. I open the door. People go in and do their thing. I'm the last guy. So I show up, and I've been told, look for work. If nothing else, pull long. Oh, okay, cool. So I pull long, and I see this guy in force on force, and this guy pops his head out down this dark hallway. And I could have burned him down, and I said, show me your hands, show me your hands. And he goes, oh, whatever. And he was told by the controllers, hey, man, just give up. If if they're pulling long and you see him, just give it up, let it go. And so he did. He showed me his hands. So I'm sitting there, John Chapman's teaching the class, Chappie's teaching the class, and he's right over my shoulder, and I know he is. And I'm like, I don't look at Chappie, but I go, I don't know what to do from here, Chappie. I don't know how to take this guy into custody as a cop. I just don't know. And he goes, okay, let me be your mouth. So do this, do that, do the other thing. All right, he's in custody. Move on. Oh, okay, cool. So having a role player that I had him, and he poked his head out, and I said, show me your hands, and he did. Instead of going, oh, okay, I'm going to have a gunfight with this guy, was very helpful. So that's to me where it is. Some things that we have learned, I mean, really, for me, it really was ingraining this idea of positional dominance before deployment. And man, when you put a simunitions gun on, and we do that with the not necessarily with the man markers, but with the blanks, because the blanks work just as well there. And somebody's trying to stop you from drawing that gun, or it introduces you're wrestling with a guy, and all of a sudden there's the gun there. Ooh, and you try to draw that gun, and you don't have him dominated positionally, you will get shot with your own gun an awful lot.
Well, I agree with that, man. I mean, that's 100% correct, because look, and especially in civilian-based encounters, it happens in less than 3 feet, like by a majority of them, right, by pure statistics. And so the odds of you being able to skin that smoke, and get it out into the fight and start doing dirty work is almost slim to none. It's almost never going to happen. You're going to have to go hands-on first. You're going to have to get yourself in position to be able. You have to fight to get into the fight, meaning I have to go hands-on to be able to get to my gun. And
you got to earn your draw.
You got to earn it. You got to earn the, and so it's, and mind you, time's working against us. We didn't choose the environment. We didn't choose the time, the place, the person, the circumstances. So like all the odds are against us. We're playing catch up for a long time. Well, fractionally, but we're playing catch up for a long time before we can actually do, get on one-upmanship. And so, it's really interesting. I really love training force on force, but I have to do it with the qualifications of it can't be like airsoft and it can't be like paintball, because the more you game it, the shittier it gets. And so I've always told people the two elements that I need to have. I need to have a role player who's willing to lose. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I've been the role player for several law enforcement agencies. Like a bunch of my friends are cops, just through what I do for a living. And so they'll be like, hey man, you want to come? And I've seen these guys are up in the rafters and they're like all Ramboing it down, and it's fun, but it's not a good role play. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, you have to have a role player who's willing to lose. And the second thing that you have to have, and this is more of a mindset, you have to have the desire to not use your weapon, but the ability to use it when you need it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so as John Q. human being, like, when you do something that's kind of fun, look, you don't put 50 cents in the arcade and not want to shoot the game if you're playing Terminator, right? Or Buck Hunt or something like that. We all want to be on the trigger. And so go ahead.
Yeah. So now when I run force on force, that's one of the things that I do. I'm usually the last brief for the student when they go in to their situation. And okay, here's your gun. This is what it's got. Put it in your holster. Okay, everybody's checked. This is your scenario. And I'll grab a hold of their fist helmet and I'll go, your goal is not to use your gun. I want you to try to get out of here without using your gun. And that kind of brings the mindset back down of, from I'm going to shoot somebody here today to, okay, my goal is to get out of here without using my gun, because that's my daily attitude, right? Lord, let me get through today without needing my gun.
Pray for it every day, man. The last thing I want to do is have to go hot on somebody, that's for sure, and just engage in anything. Like, why would you want to be in a violent encounter, whether it's an edge weapon, impact weapon, hand-to-hand, ground fighting, verbal, road rage? Like, I would rather not have that, 5 minutes of my life taken away from me for something stupid, And so the problem, again, is sometimes you and I just don't get a chance to choose that moment. Somebody else does that for us, and we have to choose what the right response is, and we have to choose it like right now. Don't make the wrong moves, And so, and it kind of brings me to my next point, John, is like, look, you're a firearms guy, I'm a firearms guy. I spend more of my time behind the edge weapons and in my unarmed combatives, and firearms obviously came last for me. Mm-hmm. But you're going through 18,000 videos of these things. And I've always felt like, hey, listen, if you're going to put stock into something and training in totality, firearms is not the answer. It's a solution to a certain set of problems. And so, give me your philosophy on training in, unarmed combatives, edge weapons, impact weapons, fitness and conditioning, man, because you're looking skinnier and skinnier every single day. I don't know if the wife isn't feeding you or what's going on, but obviously your conditioning's changing through, we can see that on video. You've documented that.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm down about 60 pounds, give or take, over the last 10 months, 9 months or so.
Yeah.
Set a new personal recent PR in a 5K today, because I mean, here's the thing, and I can say this now, that you're far more likely to die of a heart attack than you are of getting mugged, of coronary disease than anything else. So really, I would encourage folks to prioritize their physical fitness. And I'm not doing anything crazy. I just stopped eating like crap and started just trying to get active as best I can, which just means, it started off with a 30-minute walk, and now I'm alternating days between a jog. I'm running 5K and doing planks. Then the other day I walk, do push-ups and squats. That's about it, man. I read a great article Larry Lindemann at Point Driven Training posted about strength being inversely related to all-cause mortality. So the stronger you are, the less likely you are to die of all causes. Okay, well, guess what? I need to get stronger. And that's not so I can, whoop a band of ninja. That's so that I don't fall over when I'm 78 years old, break my hip, and die of sepsis. And
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and so, I'm getting to that age now where I'm in my mid-40s, and it's harder to do, but more important to do, because you don't do it in your 40s, it's harder in your 50s. And, it's harder than that still. So, and I'm working on it. I still got plenty of room to grow there. I think if you go look at the FBI Uniform Crime Report of all violent crimes in America, 80% of assaults are simple assaults, not aggravated assaults, so your gun's not going to be a helpful tool. So having a robust empty-handed skill set is incredibly important. And I always say like this, I'm sure you'd agree with me. People ask me all the time, what's the best art to study, John? My answer always is the art matters less than the teacher. Not that the art doesn't matter, but I don't know what's available in your town, and you've got to have a mat to teach on and learn on and experience. And so the teacher matters way more than the art. I'd rather go to an art that I maybe think is less, defensive oriented, that had a really great teacher than the perfect martial art that had a really crappy teacher. And I know jiu-jitsu is all the hotness, and I got no problem with it at all. Floor karate is awesome, and snuggle struggles, and that's all great. I'll tell you, I visited a school not long ago, and within 30 minutes, I was like, it wasn't here in my town. We were visiting somewhere else, and I just dropped in. And within 30 minutes, I was like, I'd never train here for all the tea in China. And it was really the only game in town. And I was like, but I couldn't train here because this teacher, he was incredibly disrespectful to women. He was saying ugly things about girls. Disparaging remarks about other people and their skill set, and I was like, nope, this isn't a place that I would learn, and I don't care how good the teacher is.
There's some big name firearms instructors that have that same demeanor, and honestly, like, I don't care how big your name is. Like, if you're acting like an a-hole, you're still an a-hole. You're just a popular a-hole.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I really think investing in that empty-handed skill set's important. I think carrying less lethal tools. I carry an OC spray on me everywhere I go, and I carry OC spray where I can't carry a gun, Heck, I got an OC spray. I'm sitting in my house, and I got my OC spray on me because, That long distance eye poke, super helpful and a great way to get out of a lot of problems, and much easier to justify legally.
Do you like the stream dispense, or do you like the conical, or do you like the foam flash gel?
I like stream. I think stream is the best one in their current configurations. Cone is really good, but of course that shortens up your range quite a bit. Foam and gel take way too long, in my opinion, to have effect. So I just pretty like the stream.
Well, you and I are pretty similar. I actually go conical disbursement first, stream second, and then I try and throw gel and foam out the window. It's horrible stuff, and typically you gain contact with it. You'll be drowning in this stuff. The downside of conical is if you get the tailwind. The downside of stream is that you have to be a little bit more accurate, and so. They all have the pros and cons, but, I'm glad that you brought that up, that it's a non-lethal tool. You're still carrying it. And I know a lot of guys are like, I'm too cool to carry an OC spray. I have an OC spray on my keychain. I got no shame in the game, man.
Absolutely not. I mean, listen, if I apply OC and then call the cops and they arrest the guy, then that's great. I didn't have to shoot somebody today. That is a win. There is so much less paperwork for OCing somebody than there is for shooting somebody. You're not going to spend the night in jail if some guy was, yelling at you and balled his fist up at you and you sprayed him down with the OC spray. You will not spend the night in jail for that. But you shoot him, and you could very well have some serious consequences. So, I mean, we say a firearm's a tool of last resort, and I try to live that ethos out.
I agree. John, so I want to ask you a couple business questions, and then before we wrap up, I'd like to do a speed round with you if you got the time. You got a few minutes?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Okay, so like you and I were talking before we went live, that I started a small mastermind group for people that are in our industry, martial arts industry, firearms industry, self-defense industry, because a lot of them are great people, great instructors. They're struggling hard to get things moving, and they don't have the business prowess or the entrepreneurial skills to get there yet. So I want to help them do that. And so, obviously, you and I are in this industry. We've done well for ourselves in different paths, which is really cool. I would love to hear from you, and this is for that group and anybody who else is watching who's interested in being a part of this industry and hopefully growing and doing good things. First, one critical piece of advice that you would give to anybody who's in this industry and just getting started.
I would say, if anything, if you're going to be an instructor, if you are going to be a teacher of any kind, take the time to apprentice. Take the time to learn from somebody who's doing it well, and not just the instruction end. You got to wear 5 hats if you're going to be a successful business owner in the firearms or martial arts space. Okay, you got to be the expert.
Yep.
You got to be a teacher. You got to be a business person. You got to be a web savvy person, and you got to be a marketer. Okay, so most of us that are getting in there, we're like, okay, I'm the expert, but can you teach? Do you understand business and how you actually make money at this? Do you understand the interwebs and what they do? And do you actually know how to market your skill set? If you don't know those things, you're going to have to hire them out. And so learning them at the foot of somebody that's doing them successfully is the easiest way to do that. So take the time to apprentice.
I certainly appreciate that. Now, I always, there's a lot of habits as a small business operator, and you and I are operators, right? I'm not talking like operator as, I'm talking operators as in business operators. I've always said that management requires measurement. And so I log data nonstop, what my ad spend was, where it went out, what my demographics were, my target audience. I am constantly in my journal making notes for what my business behaviors are, and what my time and efforts going into the business are, so that way I just know. What do you recommend for managing growth? Or are you completely against me? You might be like, look, I don't need any data. I'm just John. I don't know.
I'm a data junkie. I'm such a data junkie. I am constantly looking at that. Stephanie always rolls her eyes at me because I'm constantly looking at, okay, so what are the numbers and how do those work? And I'm a big fan of A/B testing. So, try something else, compare the two of them, which one worked better. Can we then set a different variable and see and really kind of nail down what worked today? And what worked today may not work tomorrow, may not me moving going forward. It's a constant moving target. So for me, in the trusted advisor space, so for instance, on YouTube, one of my big things is not just to look at views. Views are great and they're a great metric. Don't look at subscribers. I can go buy 1 million subscribers right now. They're like $29 per thousand if I want to buy subscribers. Now, if you want to kill your YouTube channel, go bunch of subscribers, go buy a bunch, but that's irrelevant. People use that as social proof. What I really am interested in, give me your monthly aggregate views, give me your dwell time, and give me your engagement rates. If I can see engagement rates, now I know what is going on in terms of the quality of your content. So they say, I'll give you a couple for instances there. The industry-wide, if you're looking at good engagement rate on social, you're usually looking between 2 and 3%. So 2 to 3% of your reach is your expected engagement rate. Right now on the main channel on Active Self-Protection, if I have a video that gets under 5% engagement, I'm angry about it. I did something really bad in that video, and I got to go find it. On Extra, if it's under 10%, my engagement on Extra tends to be 10 to 15% on the Extra channel constantly. And I go, look, I want that much or more. So finding those metrics in what you're doing, honestly, like, for instance, I suck at Twitter. So when people go, oh, John, how do I grow my Twitter audience? I go, oh, that's a great question. I'm terrible at it.
I stayed off of Twitter because it turned into political porno for me. I deserted Twitter, period. I just won't do it anymore.
I mean, I do post some stuff over there, but I don't interact over there much. I'm working on Instagram. I'm learning the Instagram. And really, the hard thing for me has been, I could get more followers if I post naked women pictures, but I'm not going to do that. But really, to me, where I've been working is how do I monetize this effectively without becoming a jerk? And by being a trusted advisor. And, I'm still working that out. Like, I need to do some more learning there myself. So when you're looking at
Instagram's an interesting platform because it needs to age up. Like, and Facebook is aged up. You could find executives on here. You could find people who are, like self-employed and that kind of. It's got a good variety. It's between LinkedIn and Instagram. Facebook resides. Instagram is aged up, but the problem with it is it's hashtag culture, right? It's all picture heavy, and so the power of the written text has changed. It's starting to come back a little bit now, just by metrics, but it still hasn't matured. So we're just not sure what it's going to do in the next 6 months.
Yeah, yep, that's the case.
Seems to me, anyways. So in your years of entrepreneurship and getting Active Self-Protection up and moving and branding your videos and putting stuff out, give me a critical mistake that you made that just made you go, oh my God, I'm so stupid, and then how to respin that back up. Give me some instance of that.
Well, I don't know that it was a mistake, but something that I had to change pretty quick was that when we started, I was all behind the camera. So it was my voice, but nobody knew my face. And when we started, the early ones, and that was technologically based, basically, because I didn't have a way to get on camera well. And so I just started talking. So then we noticed, we went to the NRA annual meetings one year, and I'd walk right by people, and that's fine. And then I start talking, and people like whip their head around. Oh, wait a minute, it's John. And so then I was like, okay, maybe I need to start doing my intros on camera instead of off. So then that way I'm more attached to the brand. And that was a big change we had to make. So if I had to start that earlier, I think I would recommend, especially for small business owners, that your company is not your name. My company, Active Self-Protection, it's not John Correia, Inc., but you are the brand. And so you may as well recognize that from the start and embrace it.
It's funny because you're saying things that I've been saying in my mastermind group, and it's like almost verbatim, John, almost verbatim. It's like you're haunting me. I'm proud of you, my man, for saying these things. And so anybody's watching, I didn't coach you into any of these things. You're giving your honest feedback. That's it. I didn't tell you, so. John, let's do a little bit of speed round. Let's do some speed dating here, just for a few questions. How about?
All right.
You got a second, right?
Sure.
Let's have some fun with this. Okay, this is all based on your personal preference, and you can feel free to clarify or opt out of the question if you want. I only have a handful of these here for you, so and then we'll start wrapping this thing up here. Okay, so here we go. Question number 1: AR or AK?
AR all day long in America. If I was elsewhere in the world, AK.
Okay, fair enough. Glock or HK?
Oh, come on, man. I love my crowd space magic. I love my crowd space. Of course. I mean, let's be honest, man. I mean, I'm an HK brand ambassador. I couldn't say Glock even if I wanted to. Let's be honest.
I still had to bring it up. Okay, how about this? HK or Springfield? I'm sorry, Glock or Springfield? Glock or Springfield?
Glock or Springfield? Give me a Glock all day long. Now, it depends because, okay, I don't like the XD, but if we're talking about, you know, a Springfield TRP 1911, the TRP 1911 is a pretty nice gun. I don't mind that gun at all. I don't like the original XD. I carried a Glock 19 for 4 years. I got no problems with Glocks. It's a fine gun. We joke about it all the time. It's Glock. It's done. It's good. You know, it's fine. It's like the generic gun.
It's going to work. It's going to work. You can count on it to go bang every single time. You know?
Yep. And I moved to my VP9 because I'm left-handed and it was more ambidextrous friendly. And I'm fine with that. And I really like my HKs. And when people say, you know, wait a minute, but they're more expensive, my answer is just stop being poor.
Fair enough. Okay. In specific to pistols, optic or no optic?
Optic all day long. Dot is light.
Dude.
When you go back, I'm telling you, man, if you make the effort. Now, I will say this. It takes work to get to the dot. It takes work to make the dot work. But once you do, I was taking a class, not this last weekend, but weekend before, and we were shooting pistol out to 25 yards. And everybody on iron sights was going, I can't see, I don't know what's going on. And those of us that are using dots are like, this is boring, bang, 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 bang. Able to make my hits all day long. 15 yards and out, the dot is an easy button. And for me, defending my church family, defending active killer events, those kind of things, 15 yards is nothing, and so dot is life.
Thing about the dot for me is that coming out of the draw stroke, it's got to be spot on or you miss the dot all in all.
That's 100% correct. So you have to have a consistent presentation. If you don't have a consistent presentation, you are toast. That said, if you learn how to do that, and here's where I'm going to plug my coach. You got to take a Jedlinski red dot class, learn how to run that red dot. I'll tell you this, when I was going to make the transition, I called Scott and I said, Scott, what am I going to do? And he said, you're going to do this exact thing 1,500 times and then call me back. And so about 10 days later, I came back to him and said, okay, I'm done with 1,500. He goes, okay, now you're going to do the same thing in reverse 1,500 times and then call me back. And I go, when am I going to go get the shooter's shot with this gun? He said, not yet. So I had almost 5,000 total reps and total presentations before I went to the range and fired a first shot. So it takes work. That said, now that I've done the work, guess what? As Aaron Cowan says, the magic red dot fairy just brings me a dot when the gun comes out of the holster.
My only concern with the red, again, you put more time into it. I threw an optic against one of my pistols, just haven't put the time into it yet. So my carry gun does not have an optic on it because I don't feel my skills there to run an optic yet. The other question that I had as far as the optic in specific goes was unconventional positions. You know what I mean? You're in the middle of a fight. You don't know how the hell you're going to lay down. You might be on your side. You might be on your back. And so having a consistent presentation from where? You know what I mean? And so that scared me a little bit. So I just feel like until I train more with an optic, I'm just not going to run a gun with an optic for a carry gun.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a wrong answer. I do think, though, that if the guy is close enough that I'm on my back or on my butt or something like that, what we say all the time is put the meat in the window and press the trigger. You will hit what you need to hit.
That's right. That's right. 9mm or 45?
For me and for mine, I carry a 9mm. That to me, they all work the same. 9, 40, 45, 357, 38, even 380 at this point. They all do the same thing terminally. So for me and mine, I carry a 9mm, but I don't care. Carry what you want. In fact, I'd really recommend everybody else carry 45 because then that's more 9mm for me.
That's right. Hopefully cheaper too. Knife or OC spray?
OC spray all day, air day. I am looking for a knife defense caught on video. I am desperately looking for actual video of somebody using a defensive knife that's not an on-duty cop in a defensive encounter. I haven't seen it yet, but boy, have I seen OC spray used effectively a lot. The other thing to me, too, is that a knife or a gun, both lethal force. So you pull a knife on somebody and no one in the world is going to go, oh, yeah, that's a less lethal response. They're just not, whereas OC spray is a non-lethal response.
Well, we could debate that for days, and I know that you're pressed on time, so I'm not going to debate. We'll debate that at the NRA conference next month when I see you, or in a month and a half. Okay, here's a good one for you. Although equal pieces of junk, Versa carry versus Serpa. Which one would you rather have? Those are the two holsters that you can have.
Oh my God! I have to choose between a Versa carry and a Serpa.
Or duct tape.
Or duct tape
into my leg.
I'll take a Versa carry because the Serpa could kill you.
I would agree with that. Thin crust or thick crust pizza, John? This is gonna, like, our friendship rides on the line for this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're a Chicago boy, right? So you got to answer that correctly. But I'm going to throw things for a loop for you and say I eat keto, so I don't eat pizza.
Don't they have a keto pizza?
Yeah, but okay, so that's like a cauliflower crust and it's thin crust, and you're not going to like that answer.
You might as well have a cracker with cheese on it, man. Well, how about this? Pasta or pizza before you went keto?
Before I went keto, man, I do love a good pizza. A good pizza is a thing of beauty.
All right.
And yeah, man, yeah, I'd say pizza for me.
And I'm with you. And as we wrap up here, do I understand that you're going to be in Chicago in May? Is that right?
That is kind of the current plan. We're definitely looking at. Let me see what I want to verify what you're talking about here, because I know we're going to be in Southern Illinois in April, at the end of April and beginning of May. Yeah. So Southern Illinois, and then I'll be at the USCCA Expo, which is where? I forget where that is at this point.
Milwaukee. I think that's up towards Wisconsin somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Correctly. So yeah. But we'll be in Southern Illinois at the first weekend in May. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm actually going to be in Chicago teaching edge weapons seminars the first weekend in May. That's Cinco de Mayo weekend.
Mm.
I was going to say, if you're closer to Chicago, I'll take you for good Chicago-style pizza. I'll even make it like vegetarian for you, so that way, you can have it. But you have to have a good lube Almaty's before you judge pizza.
Yeah, that's true. And man, listen, I'm at the place now where I'm more focused on my health than anything else. And so sometimes your health is your emotional health, and a great pizza is a part of that.
I certainly agree with that. I mean, I'm going to use that excuse. This pizza is for my emotional health. Don't judge me.
You know what's funny? What's funny, Nick, is that we actually had a couple of Lou Malnati's pizzas here in Phoenix. They came out here. Yeah, and they closed.
Didn't do well, huh?
I guess not, man. I don't know if Phoenicians just don't appreciate good pizza, or, if maybe we do appreciate good pizza and it wasn't as good as we thought. Ooh, what now?
Well, I live in Dallas now, man, and you couldn't find a good pizza anywhere in this state. I'm just telling you that up front. So, when I go back to Illinois, the first thing I do is go hunt myself some pizza just to make myself. It's for my emotional health. Don't judge me.
Fine, man. You can do it.
All right, brother. Well, I know you got some stuff to do. Let me just double check on any questions here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Hey, bro, real quick, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or follow you, give us your interweb real estate locations.
Okay, well, so if you want to find me, YouTube channel, youtube.com/active self-protection, facebook.com/active self-protection. I also would encourage folks, stay with us, make sure that you're subscribed on those, because we're going to announce the details here pretty quick of our 2019 Active Self-Protection National Conference. It's going to be September 27, 28, 29 in Manhattan, Kansas at Tallgrass Shooting Sports. We're going to do it 100% as a fundraiser for the Flint Hills Foster Teen Camp, hoping to raise $100,000 and give it 100% to helping abused foster teens who age out of the system. And so we're going to have
come around. Definitely, you and I will talk more about that one off the sideline, because I'd love to be able to partake and help, support that in whichever way I can.
Awesome, man. So there's that stuff. You can also find us on ActiveSelfProtection.com.
Active Self-Protection. Guys, go find, if you're not subscribed to John's YouTube videos and his social media, do it. They're so good. They're so educational. They're kind of entertaining at times too. John brings a lot of personality to the videos. Go watch his stuff. I'm telling you, it's a service to society. It's not just a bunch of videos that's just out there. The things you can learn from there can truly, truly, truly Save Your Life. Knowledge is power. And John, we really appreciate you taking the time to not just make those videos, but obviously, spend time with us tonight and answer a whole bunch of questions. Hopefully this was fun for you as well. Guys, go find John. And if you guys are watching this on John's deal, come over to the dark side and come like the S2 Strategic Defense page, and let's all be friends.
All right, Nick, thanks so much for having me on, man.
John, thank you very much, brother. We'll see you again soon.